Hey everyone, my name is Anders and today we are going to go through my 2023 BDO class rankings. This video is more geared towards new and returning players looking to see how classes rank in the latest meta. There are currently 26 classes in the game, with all but 2 having 2 distinct styles called Succession and Awakening. Succession enhances the weapon you've been using since level 1, giving you stronger abilities, while Awakening gives you a second weapon and a whole new set of skills to use. Sometimes these styles are very different from one another, so I'll do my best to explain how each one does in the current meta. Let's start with the male classes in the game, starting with Warrior. Warrior has been a stable and reliable class since the beginning of the game. Awakening in particular is strong with great dueling potential and good PvE performance. While not as needed in mass PvP, the class can still do very well in smaller, more contained fights and has become a relatively easier class to learn than it used to be. Succession tends to be less popular but offers a simpler PvE grind and some defensive utility for group play. Overall, Warrior has been consistently good over the years, with some slight balancing nerfs to their PvP play in recent months. Despite this, it remains a class that rewards practice and dedication to excel in dueling in particular. Warrior is a strong choice as a first class in BDO if you like great swords or the sword and shield archetype. Berserker is currently one of, if not the best male class in the game, a bruiser style class. Succession excels in PvE grind thanks to its amazing mobility and sustain, linked with also being one of the easiest classes to grind with. In mass PvP, Succession is also one of the meta classes sought after for their ultimate crowd control capability. It also has a beast form in Succession that allows him to increase his damage and healing. In Awakening, he gains some range capability but remains a good grinder and is arguably even more useful in mass PvP thanks to his Awakening buff and ranged crowd control. One of the few classes where both Awakening and Succession are top tier. Musa is an assassin style class that excels in mobility. Awakening is currently in a strong state in the meta. The Awakening PvE grind offers good AoE, good damage, good mobility, and low effort. Succession PvE is also very good, but requires more effort and lacks some of that AoE of the Awakening counterpart. Succession was at one point extremely good at high-end areas, but was nerfed after more and more players began catching on to just how good he was. In mass PvP, Awakening is very useful thanks to his protected movement and AoE. His dueling potential is also high thanks to his damage and mobility, but lacking a grapple crowd control ability may make some matchups difficult. Musa is a class that is relatively simple to learn, but not as easy to perform well with if you don't put in the time to learn. Ninja is an assassin style class that has unmatched dueling potential. Succession in particular is one of, if not the strongest duelist in the game. Ninja relies on quick animation and skill links to deal damage over time and is able to move in and out of small scale fights with relative ease thanks to his strong mobility and stealth. In mass PvP, he falls off a bit but can still be strong in smaller roles like other assassin classes in the game. PvE grind is really good for Succession, but Awakening requires more effort to do well in, something that has been improved with recent buffs to Awakening. Overall, Ninja is the coolest looking class by far and rewards committed players who tend to gravitate more to PvP than PvE in MMOs. Wizard is a caster style class that has incredible support capability for a traditional caster role. Succession is a more mobile version of Awakening, allowing you to tweak how you want your skills to function, and has incredible range and utility for your allies. He has healing, he has buffs, and crowd control ability with range, making Succession Wizard a must-have class in mass PvP. Awakening is less sought after because of the more mid-range nature of the Awakening skills, but they can still function well thanks to the utility he keeps, plus gaining a semi-autonomous pet which deals added damage. In PvE, Wizard is a good grinder, but not the best. For duels, you will struggle with Awakening, but Succession has the mobility to keep up and win most fights. Striker is a brawler style class that is one of the tankier characters in the game. He does well in PvE grind, with Awakening and Succession being close in efficiency now after Succession received some nerfs to their PvE a while back. Dueling, Awakening has the edge, being one of the better duelists in the game, though with practice Succession can still do very well. Mass PvP, both styles aren't as needed, but Awakening would be preferred over Succession thanks to their protections and AoE damage. Succession simply lacks in both these areas. Striker is a unique class in that they inherently take less damage from magic caster classes like Wizard. Couple that with their inherent high evasion, they can be built incredibly tanky for a class that can still deal high damage. Archer is a range style class that only has Awakening available. He excels in mass PvP thanks to his high damage and ranged crowd control capability. In PvE, he is a good grinder, but his low defenses make it difficult to perform well in some zones. Your PvE performance will be limited to which zone you grind. In some you'll do extremely well, and in others you'll be one of the least efficient grinders. In duels, Archer has incredible potential thanks to his mobility and crowd control capability, but without grapple, he can struggle with some matchups. His low inherent defenses will also be evident in duels when you find yourself unable to trade damage with other players. Despite his downsides, he is still one of the smoothest classes to play right now. Hashashin is an assassin caster class. Awakening excels in dueling, being one of the best duelists in the game right now. Succession lacks the grapple crowd control of the Awakening style to really dominate in dueling, but he's still strong thanks to his mobility. In mass PvP, Succession performs better than the Awakening style thanks to his mobility and AoE. In PvE, both Awakening and Succession do very well, being very good grinders. They're efficient, have good sustain, and good damage output. Succession has the unique ability to not only summon tornadoes, but become one. Overall, Hash is not necessarily a difficult class to learn or use, but you'll need to learn a few skill links to more efficiently use the class. Sage is a caster style class that is in a really strong state in the current meta. Succession excels in mass PvP thanks to his recent buffs to mobility and damage. Before this, believe it or not, he was one of the worst classes in the game. He was unfortunately underperforming since the initial nerfs to him after its release. In PvE, both Succession and Awakening do well, but are not generally top tier grinders. Dueling wise, both Succession and Awakening aren't the best right now, but Awakening does have access to grapple crowd control ability that is also ranged, which helps your chances against some matchups. Sage is closely linked with one of the main stories of the game. If you're someone looking for a class with a stronger lore connection as well, he's kind of a big deal in the game story. So those are the male classes in the game right now. More may come, of course, but let's move on to the rest of the classes, starting with Ranger. Ranger is an assassin hybrid ranged class. In Awakening, she is one of the best duelists in the game thanks to some recent buffs, but in Succession, she's one of the worst duelists, mainly because of her limited mobility and her stationary range nature in Succession. For mass PvP, however, Succession is miles ahead of Awakening because of that added range focus in her skills. In PvE, Awakening is currently very strong, dealing good damage and not suffering from any finger strain while grinding, and while she is technically a hybrid range character in Awakening, she becomes more melee focused, which may be hard to adjust if you're starting out thinking Ranger will be a purely long range character. Sorceress is an assassin caster class that is overall pretty solid. Awakening is the preferred style because of the flexibility of her skills. The Awakening ultimate skill is useful in mass PvP thanks to the black hole effect. She's able to vanish on demand, deals very high damage, has good skill flows. She can be a really good duelist, but no grapple crowd control means you will struggle in some matchups. Succession is a little behind Awakening in PvP aspects because of generally having less tools to utilize, but she is fairly good in PvE. A lot of forward guard means you don't take too much damage. You can grind places with lower DP than normal to an extent. Succession has had some balance changes in the past year, but Awakening remains the one to go with for most content in the game. Tamer is an assassin class and the only real pet class in a sense. The closest thing this game has come to a summoner class. She is able to summon and utilize her pet Hailang. This pet is able to be commanded to attack enemies, and you can even ride it like a mount, though higher tier horses in the game are still faster. Awakening Tamer is a very good duelist, one of the best actually. She performs well in smaller scale fights, but in mass PvP, she just isn't very good, and same goes with Succession. Succession is not a good duelist, but makes up for it by being a fairly strong class in PvE. It also has a unique trait of being able to grind while riding your Hailang, and although unique, Tamer in general is currently one of the least played classes in the game. Maehwa is an assassin class that is very similar to Musa. She has incredible mobility and very good damage. Both Awakening and Succession are close to power levels, but Succession is more popular right now because of her pure damage potential being higher. Succession enters a red blade form that allows you to use enhanced versions of your skills, while Awakening utilizes more ice-themed AoE that generally debuffs opponents. Succession is extremely good in PvE, not the fastest grinder, but one of the easiest for sure. Dueling will come down to preference, though Succession is currently in a better place. Maehwa lacks a grapple crowd control, so it will take longer to learn how to effectively play in her dueling matchups. Valkyrie is a tanky paladin style class. She is highly sought after in mass PvP for her awakening that allows for great group utility. Her succession isn't as useful in mass PvP, but she does do slightly better in dueling scenarios. Awakening has a very strong ultimate ability, a very strong shield, and inherently high defensive attributes. She is able to heal, party buff, and negate damage. She also has a grapple which helps you in most matchups in PvP. When it comes to PvE, she is not the best, middle of the road in most places, though in some spots Awakening has become a fairly popular choice of grinder thanks to her relative ease of taking out low health monsters with minimal effort. Kunoichi is an assassin style class that is very similar to Ninja. She is not as strong as Ninja in dueling, but she is still highly ranked thanks to her damage potential in succession. For mass PvP, there are better choices out there, and in PvE she does okay, but is far from being a top grinder in most areas of the game. Awakening recently received some much needed buffs which should help in this regard, but it is still too early to tell. She remains as one of the least popular classes in the game, with most players choosing to simply go to the superior Ninja class over the female counterpart. Witch is a caster style class similar to Wizard, almost identical in fact. Awakening does gain the semi-autonomous pet like Wizard, but with different elements, Earth and Lightning this time, and she is absolutely needed in mass PvP. She can heal, she can buff, support allies very well in both Awakening and Succession, but Succession focuses on range damage and abilities which make her a better choice overall over the Awakening style in mass PvP. Dueling performance is similar to that of Wizard, good in Succession thanks to some mobility, not great in Awakening because lack of mobility. In PvE, she is also similar to Wizard, a good grinder but not the best, which in Wizard are interchangeable really, though from my own experience, Wizard is slightly more popular. Dark Knight is an assassin caster style class that is also one of the more popular classes in the game. She's seen moments of dominance since release, but has established itself as a well-rounded class in the current meta. In mass PvP, Awakening is slightly more sought after, but both styles are not as needed as support classes. They excel in smaller scale fights, with Succession Dark Knight being an extremely good duelist in the current meta. Awakening recently received buffs, but it's still too early to tell how Awakening will improve. Succession is the much better style currently. PvE wise, they're both middle of the road grinders in most areas of the game, but are also fairly easy to grind with, so not a bad choice for those wanting a strong general use character. Mystic is a brawler style class similar to Striker, however Awakening gains a unique dragon animation. She has inherent high evasion and high magic defenses, making her hard to deal with for caster classes. Both Succession and Awakening do well as duelists, but outside of dueling however, she is not in a great state at the moment for mass PvP and even PvE grind. Mass PvP can see some benefit for Awakening Mystic with her debuff utility, but there are much better choices out there. PvE wise, Succession does well, but Awakening lacks the damage uptime of her Succession style. She recently received some buffs, but is in need of a few more tweaks to help her climb back to better rankings. Lahn is an assassin style class that has the unique ability to glide long distances. Succession is an incredible mass PvP class, while Awakening struggles in the larger scale fights. As you condense the fighting down to smaller scale PvP and dueling players 1 versus 1, the strengths of each style reverse and Awakening comes out on top. Awakening Lahn is one of the best duelists in the game, with Succession struggling to keep up due to slower animations and the lack of a grapple crowd control. In PvE, both classes are very good, with Succession having one of the easier grinds in the game, though lacking the efficiency she once had. Succession is a good choice for those prone to hand strain, and Awakening is also strong, helped by recent buffs to her sustain and damage. Shai is a unique support style class that only has an Awakening style called Talent. She is extremely good in mass PvP thanks to her incredible group buffs, enemy debuffs, and damage negation abilities. She lacks mobility, but in grind spots where mobility is not as needed, she becomes one of the best grinders in the game. Her damage output is very high, but she receives heavy PvP damage reduction effects, making her the worst duelist in the game. That's not to say a Shai can't win if their opponent is a bad player, but is not guaranteed. Shai is also able to compose music in-game and is the only class currently with dance emotes and the ability to ride multiple mounts like alpacas. Shai also gains some minor life skill focused buffs that make her popular among more life-focused players. Guardian is a brawler style class that has a unique slow but large impact in gameplay. Awakening is currently unfavored due to slower animations and outdated combat mechanics. Succession instead has gained faster animations and damage to make her one of the best mass PvP classes with great AoE range and debuffs. In duels, she is very good thanks to her debuff capability and large AoE. In PvE, Succession has also surpassed Awakening in terms of grind efficiency, though Awakening remains one of the easier grinders in the game, which should help with hand strain. Awakening has recently recently received buffs to help her rankings, but it is still too early to tell how much they will help. Nova is a tanky disruptor style class that has the unique ability to summon pawns to defender and deals large area debuffs. Nova has an ice wall ability that negates damage available to her in both Succession and Awakening, but Awakening is more sought after in mass PvP thanks to her extreme mobility and utility. In duels, both styles do incredibly well, with Succession having many disrupt and debuff abilities thanks to her Axion Demon Summon, while Awakening drops the Great Shield for a fast, agile, high damaging burst style of combat. In PvE, Awakening is currently much better, though Succession has recently received buffs that should help with her PvE efficiency, one of the more underrated classes in the game. Corsair is a pirate assassin style class with a unique ability to turn into a mermaid for some skills. In Succession, she gains the ability to negate the blocks of her opponents, while in Awakening, she gains a crew of otters that help her deal debuffs and damage from range. Dueling wise, they are both good, but not the best, though personally I rank Awakening higher as they have higher CC potential from range than Succession. In PvE, both are good, but not the best in any one grind spot in the game. In terms of ease of grind, Awakening does require more inputs than in Succession, though neither is as easy as some of the other classes in the game. She has seen some improvements recently that have helped her become a much stronger class this year, so a good choice if you like her style. Drakania is a brawler style class that is probably overlooked in the current meta. Her Succession was once the most oppressive class in mass PvP, but has since been nerfed. Despite this, she is still very strong in Succession. The real powerhouse, however, is Awakening. She released in a mediocre state, with many expecting Succession levels of damage, but she has since become one of the strongest PvP classes in the game. Her Awakening imbues her with the power to stance swap from a slower AoE focused dragon form and a faster high damaging hex form. Her mobility is top tier, and she's able to travel long distances in seconds. In PvE, however, both styles aren't top grinders, but they are much more improved from what they were at release. Woosa is one of the twin caster classes in the game. In Succession, she's able to summon rain clouds for added damage and debuffs. She's the best grinder in the game, bar none. In mass PvP, she does well, but there are other classes that would be preferred due to her limited range. In duels, she is very strong thanks to her mobility, her protection, and quick animation canceling skills. She can zone out opponents well with her clouds, and her damage and crowd control ability is high. Awakening, however, is worse at all of these aspects. She lacks protection for consistent PvP damage in Awakening, her animations are too slow for sustained damage in PvE, and overall, Awakening needs a lot of help to get anywhere close to Succession Woosa levels of power. Maegu is one of the twin caster classes in the game. Unlike her sister Woosa, she focuses on ranged AoE damage in Succession. She is one of the easiest classes to play with a historic extreme level of high damage, leading to a recent run of nerfs on the class. She is still a very strong class in mass PvP thanks to her range and mobility, and in duels she is very good, though currently Awakening Maegu has higher damage potential. In PvE, Succession is preferred over Awakening, though that may soon change if Succession continues to get nerfed over time, while Awakening keeps getting improvements. This class is currently in a limbo of sorts, so we don't really know where she's going to end up in the rankings, so something to keep in mind. And those are the 26 classes in Black Desert Online. I hope I did a good enough job giving you a glimpse of what each class looks like. My advice to you is to try a class that you think looks cool, since my own preference may not align with yours. BDO rewards consistency, so it's more important to find a class that you like over choosing a class that is strong in the current meta. Things tend to change drastically over months as balance changes come and change how classes do in multiple aspects of the game. I also encourage you to comment and let me know your own rankings, as it's always fun to see where other players disagree and where they think classes should be in the rankings. I try to stay as conservative as possible in these rankings, but as always, I welcome any and all feedback. That's it from me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you are watching this and thought it was helpful, you can support more videos like this by subscribing, joining the community Discord, or by using my partner code ANDERS whenever you purchase bundles, packages, or a coin for the game. This gives me a small kickback at no additional cost to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.